What I've got here is a 3 foot by 5 foot by 18-inch deep raised bed made out of a trundle bed frame that's been cut up. Hopefully you could get a trundle bed frame for free as opposed to buying some angle iron. So it's made out of a trundle bed frame and 2 2/3 pieces of Hardibacker 1/2-inch cement board. Goes for about 12 bucks a sheet, so 36, 40 bucks, whatever. Total cost on this is about 40 bucks. I've got a piece of hardware cloth here. The old junky hardware cloth. Normally you put that in the bottom of a raised bed to keep the gophers out. And you wait 5 years and it's gone. You got gophers in a raised bed. So this bed has a gopher-proof bottom and a fairly tree root resistant bottom too. I suppose tree root could snake up around and through on the sides. It'd be pretty hard. At least you'd know where it's coming from if you did have that problem. You could cut it off. Okay, this raised bed is also fairly portable. Those pieces of backer board are just slid in there. They're not attached. You can slide them out, pick the frame up, take it anywhere you want. You could have it in one location, move, you know, buy a new house or something, take the dirt out, take your raised bed along with you. The key to this is going to be that you can weld, or you want to learn to weld. It's not that hard to weld this project, but you know, you're going to need the welder, and more importantly, you're going to need the metalworking tools. Cutting angle iron without the right tools, grinding angle iron without the right tools, just is not much fun. So if you got the right equipment, this is a cheap, permanent, portable raised bed that's gopher proof. I would think that this raised bed would last 20 years. I'm not sure what would fail first. Maybe the angle iron would rust through on the bottom. Maybe the Hardibacker board would delaminate. It could go a lot longer than that, you know, who knows. But I don't have much doubt that it'll go a lot longer than the typical 5 years you get out of a wood raised bed and the hardware cloth. Here's the tools and materials necessary to make this raised bed. Cement backer board that you can get at the big box stores. 3 foot by 5 foot by 1/2 inch thick. There's a couple different manufacturers make this. I like the Hardibacker board. 3 sheet. Okay, here's where I'm going to get my angle iron. You could just go out and buy some 1.5-inch angle iron. But I'm going to get my angle iron out of this trundle bed frame. Some of it will end up being 1.25 inches, but I can live with that. These trundle bed frames are around. I've gotten a number of them for free. You could also use 2 twin bed frames. Would have enough angle iron to do the job. Be careful with these trundle bed frames. They got a strange spring action that you can really get pinched. Okay, to get this trundle bed frame broken down, I'm gonna have to grind off some rivets, so I got a grinder there. Got a metal cutting saw, use all the necessary safety equipment off, and of course a welding helmet. Took about a half an hour to grind that trundle bed frame apart. Here's what I've got. There's some 1.5-inch angle iron pieces and some 1.25-inch angle iron pieces. I'm going to use the 1.5-inchers to make the rim around the top of the raised bed. I'm going to use the 1.25-inch pieces to make the rim around the bottom of the raised bed. One of these 1.25-inch pieces is just like 2 inches too short. So what I'm going to do is the joints on that, I'm going to make them into butt joints. You'll see later on when I'm talking about the rest of the joints are going to be miter joints, but by doing those butt joints I'll pick up a couple inches and make it work. So I'm gonna cut my metal up now. Basically everything, these 2 rims, the inside dimension on the inside of the angle iron, I'm going to make a 1/4 inch bigger than the outside dimensions of this Hardibacker board. So that's going to work out to about 60.25 inches by 36.25 inches. Here's the top frame for the raised bed made out of 1.5-inch angle. Interesting little detail here. There was that cutout on that piece of angle as it was on the trundle bed frame. I had to fill it with a piece of steel strap. Here's what I cut out of. This was also from the trundle bed frame, so I cut that piece in there just to fill it. Here's a couple pieces of angle iron ready to weld. I laid it on top of one of the Hardibacker boards. I'm using the Hardibacker board as a square the edges. Just putting the angle iron flush on it. Also, you know, the heat from the weld won't burn the concrete. It might burn the Hardibacker board, but it's going to be under dirt, so it won't be seen. Got this concrete block here, putting a little weight, holding everything in place. So I'm going to tack it on this side. Probably weld the outside corner solid. Then I'll flip it over and I'll weld the other side solid on what will eventually be the top of the frame. Here it is, all tacked up, and I welded the outside corner. Okay, flipped it over, welded the other side. This is about what you get, and I'll grind it. Here's the bottom frame ready to weld, the 1.25 inch. One leg of this was not the full 5 foot length, so I just cut it to go between the ends instead of a miter joint. Same thing down here on this end. Here's the bottom frame placed over a piece of backer board to make sure it fits. I cut these pieces at 3/4 inch angle. They were just about the right length the way they came off the bed frame. I had to cut just a little bit off of each end. I'm going to use those to keep the two sides from spreading. When I weld it, I want to make sure that the two sides aren't in too tight. So I'm going to measure across, make sure it's wide enough. I've got the two frames sitting on top of each other. The bottom one is up right now, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to need 18.5 inches between, on the inside of the two frames for the sidewall. The Hardibacker board is going to be split in half, so I'll need 18.5 inches in there. Right now it measures that I've got 2.5 inches, so I'm going to need to space those out 16 inches. So I got some more of the 1.25 inch angles and cut them to 16 inches long. Here's the two pieces of Hardibacker board that I need to cut. First one I'm going to split down the middle, so I have two pieces 18 by 60 for the sides. The other piece I'm going to cut 18-inch piece off the ends. I'll probably have to cut an inch off of the end of each of those pieces too to get them to fit in, but I'll do that afterwards when I can measure with exactly what I need to do, the exact measurement. I'll also use these two 18-inch by 36-inch pieces as squares for when I weld up the frame. Here's the saw I'm going to use. It's just a big old saw I have that I can beat up on junky jobs that create a lot of dust that ruin bearings. It's got a diamond blade on it, and of course a respirator and safety glasses. Here's the frame all tacked together. I put the four corner pieces in first on the bottom frame, the 16-inch pieces. I used the 18-inch by 3 foot piece of Hardibacker board for a square. You can see the pieces I put in the center there to strengthen the bottom. Try to get the whole thing sitting straight and put it on a flat piece of ground when you tack it together. If you get any twist, it will never go away. It's just a raised bed. You can kind of see how much twist I've got here between the two sides. Maybe 1/4 inch. That's fine. Here's this corner. I think I'll find a piece of scrap to fill it in with, make it a little stronger. So now I'm going to do the finish welding, then grind it off, clean it up. Here's the finished raised bed. I may end up getting some brown spray paint and touching up the frame a little bit, otherwise the red rust will match the frame. Also, I suppose if I want to, I could track down some cement stain and stain the Hardibacker board some different colors, maybe a tan or brown, but I don't really care that much. The pieces are just set in there. Eventually the dirt would just hold them in place.
The last step is to find a nice sunny spot, locate the bed, make it nice and flat for it. Dig in the ground a little bit to get the 3/4 inch piece of angle to sink in flat with the ground, and then fill it with some good garden soil. Excess water should drain around the perimeter on the bottom. If it doesn't, you could drill some 3/8 inch holes down on the bottom of the sides just above the angle iron. Good luck.